medical beacon before Dr. Helix quickly shut it off. "Let us observe before we panic," Dr. Helix said firmly. The moment the tattoo needle touched Jake's skin, every monitoring device in the observation room lit up with alerts. Alarms beeped. Sensors went wild. 3 researchers nearly triggered emergency medical protocols before Dr. Helix raised her hand to stop them. "Wait," she said firmly. "Just observe." Jake's reaction was small. His jaw tightened slightly. His breathing stayed steady and controlled. He did not scream. He did not try to pull away. He did not even flinch. He just sat there while hundreds of needle punctures per minute pierced his skin. Casey made the first line of the design, then wiped away the excess ink. "How is the pressure?" she asked Jake. "Good. Maybe go a little lighter on the shading areas, but the line work feels perfect." He was talking, making requests, having a normal conversation while someone was actively stabbing him with needles. The observers could not believe what they were seeing. Chris's body had turned completely white. In Velthrian biology, white meant total shock. His brain could not process what his eyes were showing him. Another student was crying quietly in the corner, overwhelmed by watching someone experience pain. A Zephyron professor had to leave the room, unable to watch any more. Dr. Helix, however, was fascinated. She watched her monitoring equipment closely. The screen showed Jake's heart rate, brain activity, and nerve signals. His heart rate had gone up a little, which was normal for mild stress. But it was nowhere near the catastrophic levels that any other species would show in the same situation. His brain was registering pain, yes, but he was processing it and then just continuing anyway. "Jake," Dr. Helix spoke through the intercom, system connecting the observation room to the tattoo area. "Can you describe what you are feeling right now? Right now? It feels like hot scratching. It is more annoying than painful, honestly. The spot right on top of the shoulder bone is going to be worse when she gets there. Less muscle cushioning in that area. And you are choosing to tolerate this? Yeah, the end result is worth it. Plus, it is really not that bad. I have had worse." That statement caused another wave of distress among the observers. He had experienced worse pain than this. What could possibly be worse than voluntary stabbing? Casey worked steadily, her experienced hands creating smooth lines and gentle curves. She had tattooed hundreds of people and knew exactly how to work efficiently while minimizing discomfort. She and Jake talked while she worked, discussing her other clients, his engineering classes, and the funny looks she got from aliens who peeked into her shop. "Most of them run away when they see the needles," Casey said with a laugh. One Kixel ambassador filed a formal complaint with station security, thinking I was torturing humans. I had to get a lawyer to explain body modification traditions to them. "Did you tell them about piercing needles too?" That probably would have freaked them out even more. "Oh, I do not even mention piercings anymore. Not after the incident last month." 45 minutes passed. Casey reached the area directly over Jake's shoulder bone, where there was less muscle between the skin and bone. The observers tensed. They could see Jake's expression change. His jaw tightened more noticeably. His breathing became more deliberate and controlled. "This is the sensitive spot you mentioned?" Casey asked. "Yeah, that is pretty sharp right there. Not unbearable, though. Want to take a break?" "No, let us push through it. I have class at 6 o'clock. He was planning his evening schedule while being stabbed repeatedly, while experiencing what he himself described as sharp pain. The observers could not understand how this was possible. A young Velthrian student raised a shaking appendage. "Dr. Helix, is it possible that humans do not actually feel pain? Maybe they just lack the neural architecture for it?" "No," Dr. Helix said, pointing to her screens. "Our scans clearly show pain signal processing. He feels it. Look at these readings. His nerves are sending pain signals to his brain. His brain is acknowledging those signals. He just continues anyway. But why? What possible survival advantage does ignoring pain provide? Pain exists to prevent harm. Dr. Helix watched Jake laugh at something Casey said while the needles kept working. I am beginning to think we have fundamentally misunderstood the human relationship with pain. It is not that they do not feel it. They seem to coexist with it. They accept it as part of achieving certain goals. Another researcher spoke up. Could it be cultural conditioning? Perhaps humans are trained to hide pain responses? He is not hiding anything, Dr. Helix observed. Watch his face. He acknowledges the discomfort openly. He told us the sensitive area hurt more. He is not pretending to feel nothing. He simply is not stopping because of the pain. The session continued. Casey finished the outline and began shading, which created a different sensation. Jake described it as feeling more like vibration than sharp pricks. The observers rotated in and out of the viewing area. Some could not watch for long periods. Others were too fascinated to look away. At the 2-hour mark, Casey stopped working. Let us give your skin a rest. I need to stretch my hands anyway. Jake stood up and walked over to the mirror to examine the partial tattoo. Looking great. The color work on those flowers is incredible. Thanks. You doing okay? Need anything for the pain? Maybe some water. I am good otherwise. He drank water. He made a joke about being hungry. He checked his messages on his device. All of this while bearing visible evidence of trauma. His shoulder was red and swollen from 2 hours of needlework. But he acted like everything was normal. Chris approached. Cautiously, his color flickering between several shades. Jake, I do not understand. You are clearly in pain. I can see the tissue damage on your shoulder. Why not use the medical station's pain blockers? They are free for all students. Jake thought about the question. Honestly, it would feel like cheating somehow. Not that there is anything wrong with pain management. That this is sort of a rite of passage, you know? The pain is part of the experience. It makes the tattoo mean more. Knowing what I went through to get it. You value the pain? Not exactly. I just do not fear it enough to avoid something I want. Does that make sense? It did not make sense to Chris or to most of the observers. But they kept watching, trying to understand this strange human trait. The second half of the session went similarly to the first. Casey worked with focused precision. Jake remained calm, occasionally shifting his position for comfort, but never asking to stop. At one point, during a particularly long section of shading work, Jake actually dozed off. He fell asleep while being tattooed. This caused brief panic among the observers until they realized he had simply gotten comfortable and tired. The rhythmic buzzing of the tattoo machine and the repetitive sensation had somehow lulled him to sleep. Several researchers had to sit down, overwhelmed by the impossibility of what they were witnessing. At the 3.5-hour mark, Casey put down her machine and cleaned her hands. All done. Want to see? Jake stood and walked to the mirror. The new tattoo extended from his existing forearm piece all the way up to his shoulder. The design showed waves and geometric patterns that flowed together beautifully. The colors were vibrant, the lines were clean, and the overall effect was striking. Casey, this is perfect. Absolutely worth it. She smiled and began the aftercare process. She cleaned the area carefully, applied protective ointment, and wrapped it with a clear bandage. Keep this covered for a few hours, then follow the aftercare instructions I'm giving you. It is going to be sore for a few days, maybe a week. And he will experience continued pain during the healing process. Dr. Helix asked through the intercom. Oh yeah, Casey confirmed. It will feel like a bad sunburn for about a week, itchy and tender. He cannot scratch it though, or he might damage the ink and mess up the design. He will endure days of discomfort and suppress the natural urge to scratch the affected area. Yep. Pretty standard for tattoo aftercare. Most people handle it fine. The observers looked at Jake with expressions that mixed awe, concern, and confusion. He had just voluntarily undergone hours of repeated trauma. Now he was accepting days of additional discomfort, all for decorative purposes. And he was smiling about it. Jake paid Casey for her work, thanked her for the beautiful art, and turned to face the observation window where the researchers were gathered. So, did you guys get what you needed for your research? Dr. Helix was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was thoughtful. Jake, I think we have gathered far more questions than answers today. Would you be willing to participate in follow-up studies? Nothing invasive, just interviews and comparative analysis. Sure, I guess. Can we do it next week, though? I have that big engineering exam to study for, and this needs time to heal properly. He left the tattoo parlor in good spirits, apparently unaffected by his ordeal. The researchers remained in the observation room, staring at their data and equipment. They had just watched something that challenged everything they thought they knew about sentient biology. Christ followed Jake out, his color a confused mix of purple and blue. How are you just walking normally? Should you not be in medical? For what? The tattoo is done. Now it just heals. But the pain, it hurts, yeah. But pain does not mean I have to stop living my life. I have homework to do and classes. The Galactic Institute of Advanced Studies floated in the space between stars, a massive structure that housed students from 47 different species. Earth had joined the Interstellar Coalition just 2 years ago, and now human students walked the same hallways as beings made of crystal gas and materials that had no name in any Earth language. Jake Morrison was one of those human students. He was 23 years old, studying engineering, and trying his best to understand why his alien classmates acted so strangely about everything. Jake had brown hair, an easy smile, and a collection of scars from years of playing sports back on Earth. None of those scars seemed impressive to him, but they fascinated his alien friends to the point of concern. His roommate was named Christ, a Velthrian whose body was made of living crystal that changed colors based on his emotions. Right now, Christ was glowing a worried yellow as he watched Jake unpack his belongings in their shared room. You should be careful with those boxes, Christ said, his voice like wind chimes. If you strain your back, the medical bay is on the 3rd floor. Jake lifted another box easily. I'm good. I used to move furniture for extra money back home. This is nothing. Christ's color shifted to confused purple. He did not understand how Jake could lift heavy objects without fear of injury. On Christ's homeworld, any physical labor was done by machines. The Velthrians were too fragile for such work. A hard impact could shatter their crystalline bodies into pieces. The first week of classes taught Jake just how different humans were from everyone else. In his biology course, Professor Zolder explained the pain management systems built into every part of the institute. Medical stations were everywhere. Each one had neural dampeners, drugs that blocked pain signals, and emergency pods that could put a student into healing sleep within seconds. Pain is the body's most important warning system, Professor Zolder announced, his 6th eye scanning the classroom. When you feel pain, you must seek medical help immediately. Even small pains can indicate serious problems. That is why we have medical drones on every floor, ready to respond in under 10 seconds. Jake raised his hand. What if it's just a headache or something minor? The professor's scales shifted color, showing surprise. A headache is not minor. It indicates neural stress, dehydration, or possibly a brain infection. You should report to medical immediately if you experience one. Jake decided not to mention that he had a mild headache right now from staying up late studying. He took some water from his bottle and figured it would pass. Back on Earth, people got headaches all the time. You took some medicine and moved on with your day. But here at the Institute, his classmates treated every discomfort like an emergency. Jake watched a Kixel student stub her toe on a desk leg. The student collapsed immediately, her breathing rapid and shallow. 3 medical drones appeared from ceiling panels, surrounding her with scanners and drug dispensers. They gave her something that made her fall asleep, then carried her away on a floating stretcher. Is she going to be okay? Jake asked Chris after class. I hope so, Chris said, his body pulsing with sympathetic distress. Toe injuries are very serious. The pain can last for hours. She will probably need to stay in medical for 2 or 3 days. Jake stared at his roommate. For a stubbed toe? You say that like it is nothing. Have you ever stubbed your toe, Jake? Yeah, plenty of times. It hurts for a minute, then you're fine. Chris stopped walking. His entire body went white, which Jake had learned meant shock. You have experienced this injury multiple times, and you are still walking normally? How is that possible? Jake did not know how to answer that question. He had never thought about pain as something unusual. Pain was just part of life. You felt it, you dealt with it, and you moved on. But here at the Institute, pain seemed to be treated like the worst thing that could happen to someone. Over the next few weeks, Jake noticed more differences. The gymnasium had exercise equipment, but it was all set to very light resistance. When Jake tried to adjust a weight machine to something challenging, an alarm went off. A fitness instructor came running over, convinced the machine had malfunctioned. Student, please step away from the equipment, the instructor said. The resistance setting is dangerously high. You could tear your muscles. That's kind of the point, Jake said. You need resistance to build strength. The instructor, a floating being that looked like a jellyfish made of light, seemed confused. Why would you want to damage your muscles? They heal back stronger. That is how human exercise works. The instructor consulted a tablet, scanning through information. Yes, I see that in the human files now. Your species has a very unusual approach to physical fitness. We will need to create a separate exercise area for human students. The current equipment is not designed for your pain tolerance levels. That phrase kept coming up. Pain tolerance. Everyone at the Institute seemed amazed that humans could tolerate any pain at all. They treated Jake like he was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid for doing normal human things in the cafeteria. Jake liked to add hot sauce to his food. He had brought several bottles from Earth because the Institute food was bland. One day, he was eating lunch with Chris and a few other students when he poured a generous amount of sauce on his meal. What is that red liquid? Asked a Zephron student named Calix. Hot sauce. It's made from peppers. Adds flavor and heat. Heat? Like temperature? No, like spicy heat. It makes your mouth burn a little. Calix's breathing tubes fluttered in alarm. You are poisoning yourself? No, it just feels like burning. It's not actually harmful. Humans enjoy the sensation. Chris had seen Jake eat spicy food before, but he still did not understand it. You enjoy pain? Not exactly. The spice hurts a little, but it also tastes good. It's hard to explain. To demonstrate, Jake took a big bite of his heavily sauced food. His eyes watered slightly, and his face turned a bit red, but he smiled and kept eating. The alien students watched in horrified fascination. One of them actually left the table, too disturbed to continue eating later that night. Jake found Chris researching human biology on his computer terminal. The screen showed medical diagrams and articles about human pain receptors. Are you okay? Jake asked. I'm trying to understand, Chris said. The research says humans feel pain the same way other species do. Your nerves send the same signals. Your brain processes the information similarly. But somehow, you do not stop when you feel pain. You continue doing the painful activity. Some humans even seek out painful experiences. I do not understand how this is possible. Jake sat down on his bed. I guess we just don't see pain as the end of the world. It's information. It tells you something is happening. But if what you're doing is worth it, you work through the pain. But why would anything be worth experiencing pain? Lots of things. Getting stronger requires muscle pain. Learning new skills can be frustrating and mentally painful. Creating art or music takes practice that can hurt your hands or voice. Pain is just part of achieving things. Christopher turned to face Jake, his body shifting through several colors as he processed this information. On my world, we believe that any pain is unacceptable. We have spent thousands of years eliminating sources of pain from our lives. We use technology to prevent injuries. We use medicine to block pain signals. We design our entire civilization around the principle that no being should suffer. That sounds nice, Jake admitted. But I think humans learned something different. We learned that pain is temporary, but what you achieve can last forever. We have a saying back on Earth: no pain, no gain. You have a saying that celebrates pain? Not celebrates exactly. More like acknowledges that pain is part of growth. Chris was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, I think humans are the bravest species I have ever met. Or perhaps the most foolish. I have not decided which. Jake laughed. Maybe we're a bit of both. The conversation ended, but it was not the last time they would discuss human pain tolerance. In fact, it was only the beginning. Because in a few weeks, Jake had an appointment that would change how every species in the Institute viewed humanity. He had an appointment to get a tattoo, and he had agreed to let alien researchers observe the process. Jake had no idea that his simple tattoo session would become the most watched and studied event in the Institute's history. He did not know that what he considered a normal, slightly uncomfortable experience would challenge everything the galaxy thought they knew about pain and survival. All he knew was that he wanted to finish the artwork on his arm, and he was willing to sit through a few hours of needlework to make it happen. For Jake, that was just a normal decision. For the rest of the galaxy, it was about to be a revelation. The cafeteria was busy during lunch hour. Students from dozens of species filled the large room, eating foods that matched their biology. Some ate through tubes, others absorbed nutrients through their skin, and a few simply sat near energy sources to recharge. Jake sat at his usual table with Chris and a few other students who had gotten used to his strange human habits. Jake was scrolling through his messages on his personal device when he smiled and made a happy sound. Yes, finally got an appointment. Chris looked up from his nutrition cube. Appointment for what? Tattoo parlor on Station Deck 7. I have been trying to get in for months. The artist there is really good, but she's always booked solid. The word tattoo made several students at nearby tables stop eating. Chris's color shifted to uncertain orange. I do not know this word. What is a tattoo? Jake pulled up his sleeve, showing the design that covered his forearm. The tattoo showed geometric patterns mixed with images of mountains and trees. The artwork was detailed and colorful, wrapping around his arm in an intricate design. It is body art, Jake explained. The artist uses needles to inject ink onto your skin. It stays there permanently. I got this piece done about a year ago, but I want to extend it up to my shoulder. The cafeteria became very quiet. Students were staring at Jake's arm with expressions of shock and horror. At a table near the window, a Kixel student fainted, her support system catching her before she hit the floor. 2 medical drones appeared immediately to help her. Chris's voice came out higher than normal. Did you say needles? Someone repeatedly stabs you with needles? And you allow this? Well, yeah, that is how you get the ink into the skin. It takes a few hours depending on how big and detailed the design is. This one, Jake gestured to his existing tattoo, took about 6 hours. A Zephron student at the next table stood up so fast that her chair fell over. Her breathing tubes were fluttering rapidly. 6 hours? You let someone stab you for 6 hours? Were you unconscious? Did they use every pain medicine in the sector? Jake laughed, not understanding why everyone looked so upset. No, you stay awake for it. I mean, yeah, it hurts, but it is manageable. Kind of feels like burning and scratching at the same time. Some spots hurt more than others, depending on where the bones are close to the skin. The artist and I just talked about music and travel while she worked. More students were gathering now, drawn by the commotion. Some were taking photos of Jake's tattoo. Others were backing away, clearly disturbed. A few were speaking rapidly in their own languages, probably discussing what they had just heard. Dr. Helix, one of the institute's lead medical researchers, was eating at a table near the back. She was a Zephron with pale blue skin and multiple mandibles that clicked when she was thinking. Right now, those mandibles were clicking very fast. She stood and walked over to Jake's table. "Jake Morrison," she said, her voice controlled but strained. "I need to understand what you just said. You are telling us that humans voluntarily undergo repeated tissue trauma for decorative purposes? While conscious? With minimal pain management? I mean, some people use numbing cream, but I did not bother. Yeah, it is pretty common on Earth. Millions of people have tattoos. Probably billions by now." Dr. Helix's skin color shifted to pale white. "This changes everything we thought we knew about human pain tolerance. Jake, would you permit some of my colleagues to observe this procedure? For research purposes?" Jake shrugged. "Sure, I guess. But it really is not that big of a deal." But it was a big deal to everyone else in the cafeteria. Within minutes, news of Jake's upcoming tattoo appointment spread through the Institute's network. Students were posting about it, professors were discussing it, and the xenobiology department went into emergency session. For the alien students and faculty, the idea of voluntary pain was almost impossible to understand. Their civilizations had spent thousands of years trying to eliminate pain from their existence. They had created perfect medical systems, designed safe environments, and even modified their own biology to be less sensitive to injury. The thought of seeking out pain for artistic reasons seemed insane. Jake contacted Casey Lynn, the tattoo artist on Deck 7. Casey was a human woman in her 30s, who had set up shop on the station to serve the small but growing human population. She was talented, professional, and had been surprised when aliens occasionally peeked through her shop windows before running away in fear. "Hey, Casey, it's Jake Morrison. I have kind of a weird request about my appointment on Friday." "What's up?" Casey's voice came through the communicator. "So, apparently the aliens here are really interested in tattooing. Like, really interested. Some researchers want to observe the session. Would that be okay?" "I know it is strange." Casey laughed. "I've had aliens watch before, but never a whole research team. As long as they do not interfere with my work, I'm fine with it. Should I expect you to be your usual tough self? Or are you going to be nervous with an audience?" "I will be fine. I have never tapped out of a session yet." "Good. See you Friday at 2 in the afternoon." The days between the announcement and the appointment were strange for Jake. Everywhere he went, students stared at him. Some approached him with questions. Others kept their distance, like he was dangerous. A group of Velthrian students started a support group for anyone who felt traumatized by the concept of tattooing. Chris remained loyal to his human roommate, even though the idea of the tattoo clearly bothered him. "I will come to support you," Chris said one evening. "If you need me to call for medical help, just signal me." Chris, I appreciate it, but seriously, I will be fine. How can you be fine? You described it as burning and scratching. That sounds like torture. It is uncomfortable, but it is not unbearable. And the end result is worth it. I have been planning this design for over a year. I want it on my body. Chris's color shifted through several shades of blue and purple. I will never understand humans, but I will be there for you. The Institute's social networks were full of speculation about what would happen. Some students bet that Jake would require medical intervention within the first 10 minutes. Others suggested the whole thing was an elaborate prank and that tattooing could not possibly be real. A few students started studying human history and were shocked to discover that humans had been decorating their bodies with permanent marks for thousands of years. Professor Zolder devoted an entire class to discussing human pain tolerance. He showed videos of human athletes getting injured and continuing to play. He displayed medical reports about human soldiers fighting despite wounds that would kill most species. He presented data about human childbirth, which required pain levels that would be fatal to nearly every other known species. The humans are not like us, Professor Zolder told his shocked students. They feel pain just as we do. Their nerves send the same signals. But somehow, their minds process this information differently. They can acknowledge pain and continue functioning. Some humans even seem to use pain as motivation. We are only beginning to understand how this is possible. Dr. Helix assembled a research team of 12 scientists from various species. She requested and received permission to document Jake's tattoo session for academic purposes. The tattoo parlor agreed to install an observation window and to allow monitoring equipment. Casey Lynn prepared her shop for the unusual event. She cleaned her equipment, organized her ink supplies, and reviewed the design Jake wanted. She had been tattooing for 15 years and had worked on thousands of people. This would be the first time she had an audience of alien scientists. This is the weirdest gig I have ever done, Casey told Jake when he arrived for a pre-session consultation. But I am kind of excited. Maybe they will finally understand that tattooing is an art form, not torture. I do not think they will see it that way, Jake said. They think any voluntary pain is crazy. Well, let us show them what humans can do. Friday arrived. Jake woke up feeling normal, ate breakfast, and went to his morning classes. Several professors asked if he was sure he wanted to go through with the tattoo. Some offered to postpone his exams if he needed recovery time. Jake assured them he would be fine. Chris was a nervous wreck. His body kept flickering between different colors. He had barely eaten anything for 2 days, worried about what he would witness. But he had promised to support his friend, and Velthrians took promises seriously. At 1:30 in the afternoon, Jake and Chris headed to Station Deck 7. Word had spread about the session, and students lined the corridors, watching Jake walk by like he was heading to his execution. Some whispered encouragement. Others looked away, unable to imagine what he was about to endure. The tattoo parlor's waiting area had been expanded to accommodate the observers. Dr. Helix and her research team were already there, setting up their monitoring equipment. Cameras, sensors, and medical scanners filled the space. Everything was positioned to capture the session from multiple angles without interfering with the work. Casey greeted Jake with a professional smile. "You ready? Let us do this." "Good. I have got the design we discussed. Should take about 4 hours for the shoulder piece." 4 hours. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Several researchers exchanged glances. One of them activated an emergency. Where safety and comfort were paramount values, humans had chosen, or perhaps, publication of Dr. Helix's report changed everything for Jake and the other human students at the Galactic Institute. What started as curiosity about a tattoo session had grown into a galaxy-wide discussion about human nature. Jake went from being a regular engineering student to a minor celebrity, though he never quite understood why everyone found his pain tolerance so remarkable. Students from dozens of species sought him out now, asking questions about human endurance and resilience. Jake answered patiently while trying to keep up with his actual coursework. His engineering projects attracted unusual attention now, not just for their technical merit, but because people wanted to see how humans approached problem-solving under pressure. One day in the laboratory, Jake was working with a plasma cutter when the safety shield malfunctioned. A burst of superheated gas splashed across his forearm, causing an immediate burn. Jake dropped the tool immediately and cursed loudly. He grabbed the emergency coolant spray from the wall and applied it to the burn, his face tight with pain. His lab partners, a group of Zephron and Kixel students, had already triggered emergency beacons. Medical drones descended from the ceiling within seconds. By the time they arrived, Jake had already treated the injury and was now examining the broken plasma cutter to figure out what went wrong. "Student Morrison, why did you not wait for medical assistance?" The drone's voice was sharp with programmed concern. "The burn was not that serious. I needed to shut down the plasma cutter before someone else got hurt. The equipment malfunction was the bigger problem." "You prioritized equipment safety over your own injury?" "Well, yeah. My burn only hurt me. A broken plasma cutter could hurt everyone in this lab." The medical drone scanned his arm. The burn was second degree, painful but not severe. The drone applied better treatment and bandaged the area properly. But it noted in its report that the human had functioned through pain to prevent further accidents. This incident, like many others, was added to the growing database of human behavior patterns. Researchers noted that humans consistently demonstrated the ability to work through pain when larger concerns were at stake. They could set aside their own discomfort to help others or solve problems. This trait, the scientists theorized, must have been crucial for human tribal survival in Earth's ancient past. Christ had lived with Jake for nearly a full academic term now. He had seen his human roommate handle minor injuries, push through illness to attend important exams, and exercise until exhausted almost every day. Understanding remained difficult, but Christ had developed deep respect for his friend. One evening, while Jake was applying lotion to his fully healed tattoo, Christ asked a question that had been bothering him for months. "Do you ever regret it? The pain you have endured? The tattoo?" "No way. I love how it turned out. I mean, more generally. The injuries from sports, the soreness from exercise, the stress from difficult courses. Does your species ever wish you could simply not feel these things?" Jake thought carefully before answering. "Sometimes in the moment, sure. When something really hurts, you might think I wish this would stop. But afterward? No. I do not think I would want to lose the ability to feel pain. It has taught me what I am capable of. It has made my achievements feel more meaningful because I know what I overcame to get there." We believe pain teaches us what to avoid. It teaches us that too, but it also teaches us what we can survive. There is power in knowing your own limits and then pushing past them. Christ's color shifted to thoughtful green. Perhaps that is the fundamental difference between our species. We see pain as a wall that stops us. You see pain as a door you can walk through. That is actually pretty deep, Christ. I like that. The semester progressed, and the Institute adapted to accommodate human students better. The changes were subtle but significant. Human students were trusted to make their own medical decisions without automatic interventions. The athletic facilities expanded to include areas where humans could do their preferred high-intensity workouts. The cafeteria started carrying various hot sauces and spicy foods after Lisa Patterson submitted a formal request explaining that humans genuinely enjoyed the burning sensation. Dr. Helix continued her research with full cooperation from Earth's medical and military institutions. The data she gathered suggested that human pain tolerance was not just psychological. It was embedded in human biology. Humans produce natural chemicals called endorphins during stressful activities, which help suppress pain signals. Their nervous systems could be trained to tolerate higher pain thresholds over time. Their psychology framed discomfort as temporary and survivable rather than catastrophic. One afternoon, Jake was invited to give a guest lecture in a xenobiology class. He stood in front of a lecture hall filled with students who had all heard about the human who endured hours of voluntary needle stabbing. Jake felt nervous, which was funny considering he had sat through a tattoo session with researchers watching. "I know many of you find human pain tolerance strange or even frightening," Jake began. "But I want you to understand something important. We are not superhuman. We are not immune to pain or injury. We just have a different relationship with discomfort than most species." A Valthrian student raised a crystalline appendage. "But how do you learn to ignore survival instincts? Pain exists to protect us from harm. We do not ignore it. We listen to pain, assess what it is telling us, and then decide if it means something is wrong or just that something is hard. There is a difference between injury pain and effort pain. Injury pain says stop. You are damaged. Effort pain says this is challenging, but you can continue if you want. How do you tell the difference? Practice mostly. Experience. You learn your body's signals over time. And yeah, sometimes we get it wrong. Sometimes humans push too far and injure themselves seriously. We are not perfect at this. But the ability to push through difficulty has allowed us to survive in almost every environment on Earth and now beyond." Another student asked, "Do you think other species could learn this trait?" Jake glanced toward the back of the room where Dr. Helix was observing. "I think that is a question for the scientists. But personally, I think it is less about ability and more about necessity. Humans needed this trait to survive on Earth. Maybe other species did not face the same evolutionary pressures, so they developed different strengths instead." "Like what?" the student pressed. "Well, Valthrians have adaptive crystalline bodies that can change properties based on environment. Kixel have incredibly sensitive perception that lets them detect dangers humans would miss completely. Zephrons can survive in atmospheric conditions that would kill humans in minutes. Every species has advantages shaped by their home world. Ours happens to be mental toughness and physical endurance." The lecture hall filled with sounds that Jake had learned were alien laughter. The students appreciated his honesty and the way he presented human traits as just one option among many, rather than claiming superiority. After the lecture, Dr. Helix approached him. "That was excellent. You are helping bridge a significant gap in understanding between species. Just trying to show that we are not completely insane. Oh, by galactic standards, humans are absolutely insane, Doctor," Helix said, her mandibles clicking in amusement. "But perhaps the galaxy benefits from a little insanity. Your species brings something unique to the coalition. A refusal to accept limitations, a willingness to endure for achievement, a perspective that problems are solvable, even if the solution is uncomfortable. These traits are valuable, even if watching humans in action is terrifying." As the academic year approached its end, Jake reflected on his unexpected journey. He had come to the Institute to study engineering and ended up becoming a case study in xenobiology. The tattoo session that started everything felt like it happened years ago, though it had only been a few months. The artwork on his arm was fully healed now, the colors bright and the lines perfect. Every time Jake looked at it, he remembered. Not just the design, but the day that changed how dozens of species viewed humanity. A simple decision to get body art had sparked a scientific revolution in understanding. On the last day of the semester, Jake helped Christ pack up their dormitory room. His roommate's color was melancholy blue, which Jake had learned meant sadness. "I will miss having a human roommate," Chris said quietly. "You have taught me much about endurance and perseverance. You have taught me a lot too, about seeing my own species from an outside perspective. I never realized how unusual humans were until I lived with someone who found our normal behaviors completely shocking." "Will you return next semester?" "Definitely. I still have 2 more years in the engineering program. Plus, I kind of like being the resident human expert now." "Good. Perhaps by then, I will be less alarmed when you inevitably injure yourself doing something that seems perfectly normal to you." "No promises. Humans are kind of accident-prone." Chris's color shifted to amused orange. "This I have learned to accept." They finished packing and said their goodbyes. Jake would spend the break back on Earth visiting family. Chris would return to his crystalline home world to rest and recover from the stress of living with a species that seemed determined to hurt themselves regularly. Jake boarded. The tattoo session sparked something unprecedented at the Galactic Institute. Dr. Helix assembled a cross-species research team to study human pain tolerance, and Jake Morrison found himself at the center of an academic phenomenon he never expected. The first formal interview happened in a comfortable lounge rather than a cold laboratory. Dr. Helix wanted Jake to feel relaxed. Present were Dr. Helix herself, Chris, and 3 other researchers from different species. Jake arrived wearing a loose shirt to keep pressure off his healing tattoo. "How is the healing going?" Dr. Helix asked as Jake sat down. "Pretty good. Itchy as anything though. Really want to scratch it, but I know I should not." "And this constant discomfort, you simply tolerate it?" "I mean, yeah. What else would I do? It is just part of the process." Dr. Helix activated a holographic display showing charts and graphs. "We have been researching human history and culture more extensively since your tattoo session. What we found is concerning from a medical standpoint. Humans regularly engage in activities that cause significant pain. Sports, physical labor, body modification, even recreational activities. Can you help us understand why?" Jake leaned back in his chair, thinking. "I guess we just do not see pain as something to avoid at all costs. It is information, right? It tells you something is happening to your body. But if the thing causing pain is worth doing, you work through it." "But pain indicates damage," a Kixel researcher said, her voice strained. "The logical response is immediate cessation of the harmful activity. Not if the activity leads to something good, like exercise. When you work out, your muscles burn and ache. You get tired and sore, sometimes for days afterward. But that pain means you are getting stronger. The temporary discomfort brings long-term benefits. You intentionally damage your muscles?" The Kixel looked horrified. "On purpose?" "Tiny tears that heal back stronger. It is how humans build muscle mass and endurance. We have a saying for it. No pain, no gain." Chris's color shifted to deep purple, his shade for confusion. "You have a cultural saying that celebrates pain?" "Well, we have several actually. Pain is temporary. Pride is forever. What does not kill you makes you stronger. Push through the pain. We have built a whole cultural framework around enduring discomfort to achieve goals." Dr. Helix made rapid notes on her tablet. "This explains much about human military history. Your species' warfare tactics involve enduring conditions that would destroy most civilized armies. Forced march through harsh terrain, exposure to extreme temperatures, fighting while injured. We read accounts of human soldiers continuing to fight with wounds that should have been immediately fatal. Soldiers trained to push past pain," Jake confirmed. "Not to ignore serious injuries completely, but to keep functioning even when hurt. Is that not normal for other species?" Absolutely not. Most species require immediate medical intervention for any combat injury, no matter how minor. The idea of continuing to fight while wounded is considered either impossible or insane by galactic standards. Jake thought about the war movies he had watched, the history books he had read. Stories of soldiers performing incredible acts despite terrible injuries were common in human history. He had never considered how alien that concept might be to other species. What about childbirth? A Velthrian researcher asked hesitantly. We have read accounts suggesting human females endure this process with minimal medical intervention. Is that accurate? I mean, pain management is available if women want it, but yeah, lots of women give birth naturally. It is supposed to be one of the most painful experiences possible, but humans have been doing it for thousands of years. The pain of childbirth would kill most species, Dr. Helix said quietly. We require full neural dampening and surgical intervention for reproduction. The concept of enduring such pain while conscious is beyond our understanding. The research team asked Jake about other aspects of human culture they found in their databases but could not believe were real. He explained contact sports, where humans deliberately collided with each other at high speeds for entertainment. He described extreme sports, where humans risked serious injury for adrenaline rushes. He talked about spicy food challenges, ice baths, and marathon running. Wait, Chris interrupted. Humans run until their bodies are exhausted. Their muscles are screaming, sometimes until they vomit, and they call this fun? Some people find it meditative. It is about pushing your limits and seeing what you can achieve. Through pain. Through challenging yourself. Yeah, the research expanded beyond just Jake. Dr. Helix brought in other human students at the Institute for interviews. Each conversation revealed similar patterns. Humans did not avoid pain. They negotiated with it, pushed through it, and sometimes even sought it out for growth. A human medical student named Lisa Patterson explained her training process. Medical school involves years of sleep deprivation, mental stress, and physical exhaustion. Residency is even harder. 36-hour shifts are common in some hospitals. You learn to function through the exhaustion and discomfort because patients need you to be competent regardless of how you feel. You train doctors by depriving them of basic needs. A researcher asked, clearly disturbed. We train them to handle high-stress, painful situations because medical emergencies do not wait until you feel well-rested. When someone is dying, they need a doctor who can function under pressure. Another human student, Danny Cruz, was a former Marine who had served before attending the Institute. His interview required several breaks because his casual descriptions of military training kept causing researchers to need medical attention for distress. So the instructors wake you before dawn with loud noises, deprive you of sleep, force you to exercise until you cannot continue, expose you to tear gas to build tolerance, and simulate combat injuries with realistic scenarios. All of this to prepare you for military service? That is basic training, yeah. Advanced infantry training is more intense. Then, there are special forces programs that push even further. How is your species not extinct if you treat your own people this way? Danny smiled. Because we adapt. Humans are persistence predators. We are not the fastest or strongest animals, but we keep going. We outlast our prey and our enemies. We heal from injuries and learn from pain instead of just avoiding it. Dr. Helix compiled all the research into a comprehensive report. She worked for 3 weeks straight, barely sleeping, determined to document this paradigm shift in understanding sentient biology. The document was titled Human Pain Tolerance, a paradigm shift in understanding sentient survival strategies. The report's conclusion challenged centuries of accepted scientific theory. It stated that humans did not lack pain sensitivity. Their nerves worked normally. Their brains processed pain signals correctly. But humans possessed a unique psychological framework that treated pain as navigable rather than insurmountable. This cognitive approach to discomfort might be humanity's most significant survival trait, allowing them to persist through conditions that would eliminate most other species. The report spread through academic circles across the galaxy. Universities requested copies. Military organizations studied the findings. Medical institutions debated the implications. Some species were fascinated by human resilience. Others were deeply disturbed by what humans considered normal behavior. Back at the Institute, things changed for human students. They were no longer seen as reckless or damaged, but as possessing a genuinely different approach to physical existence. Some practical changes emerged from this new understanding. Human students were exempted from mandatory pain management protocols. The medical staff trusted them to judge their own needs. The gymnasium added a special section for human exercise, with equipment that could handle their preferred resistance levels. The cafeteria started stocking spicy foods after multiple human students requested them. Jake's tattoo healed completely after about 2 weeks. The colors remained vibrant, and the design looked exactly as he had hoped. He showed it to Chris one evening in their room. "It is beautiful," Chris admitted, "but I still do not understand why you endured so much for it." "Because it means something to me. The design represents parts of my life and experiences, and knowing what I went through to get it makes it more meaningful. Humans are very strange. Probably. But we are also pretty tough." Chris's color shifted to a warm orange, his shade for affection and respect. "Yes, you are very tough. Terrifyingly so." As the semester continued, the relationship between human and alien students evolved. There was more understanding now, though not complete comprehension. The aliens recognized that humans were different in fundamental ways, and those differences were not weaknesses. Dr. Helix published follow-up papers, exploring the evolutionary and cultural factors that might explain human pain tolerance. She theorized that Earth's hostile environment had forced humans to develop mental toughness alongside physical adaptability. On a planet with predators, diseases, extreme weather, and countless other threats, the ability to function through pain was not just useful, but essential for survival. Other species had taken different evolutionary paths. They had developed technology to shield themselves from discomfort. They had modified their own biology to be less vulnerable to pain. They had built civilizations